We are live. Hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm Sherry Reichert-Ballou with Say It Now, here with the Mango Publishing Heart Wisdom panel. And oh my gosh, I have been so looking forward to today. We have Dr. Julissa and Elise Marie Collins, and both of whom have been with us, I think, a couple times on the Heart Wisdom panel, if not more. And every time, I was just saying before we went live, every time I take away things that I end up implementing in my life right away. And so I'm sure the same thing is going to happen today. Welcome to both of you. Hello.
Hello, Sherry. Hello, Elise.
Yay. So why don't we start with you, Dr. Julissa? If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and telling us a little about your work. And I would love to know, while you're doing that, do you have a favorite kind of new health practice right now that's your own favorite, biohacking tip?
Beautiful, wonderful questions. Okay, hope I could cover all of them. Yes, well, hello, everyone. Dr. Julissa, board certified naturopathic doctor. My desire has always been to help souls achieve an epic health journey in their lives and experience life to the fullest, feeling good in every way that's possible, whether it's physically, emotionally, and mentally. And okay, the next question was, have I started a new practice with
Or
my
what's your current favorite? Maybe just your current favorite, health practice.
hmm, not so many of them.
I'm sure.
You know, being a vegetarian for 20 some odd years and getting good sleep and just trying in every way which will help with mental, I would say biohacking is truly look at the positive in every situation despite grumpy souls around you. you know just really change it up and be the angel's advocate, not the devil's advocate, in just looking at the wonderful situation that helps with our healing. And I do that and try to help my patients also bring that in. So we'll have a lot to discuss, but I would say those are the top three.
Okay, I love that. I love that. And I know for each of you, there are many, 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 but I just thought, oh, we'll just get a little tiny taste at the start.
Yes.
So thank you and welcome. And Elise, hello, good to see you again.
Hey, thank you. Great to be here.
Same question to you. If you would tell us just a little bit about you, your work, and if you have a current favorite or two health practice.
Yes. Okay. So, I'm Elise Marie Collins. I'm a yoga teacher, a health coach, and a gerontologist. And I love to help people to live their best life, just similar to what Dr. Julissa said. I've been a yoga teacher for several decades, about 25 years, because my son I was pregnant with my son when I completed teacher training, and he's now 24 years old. So living what I call a yoga lifestyle is my passion. And that includes not just the diet and the physical movement, but yoga has many limbs and they help us to, I believe, align with our spirit, align with what we're really here, what we're called to do with our purpose. And I think all of those things, they're all I bring those principles into my book. Super Ager is one of them, because the yogis, when you live a yogic lifestyle, you will live a much better quality and most often a longer life. And then my other book, Chakra Tonics, is based on Ayurveda and nutrition and rituals that will help you to optimize your life. And my tip, I think right now I've got a lot of biohacking tips, but the one I'm really enjoying here in California, where I live, is going to nature, because nature lowers our blood pressure, reduces stress. I'm particularly going through a lot of stress right now because my mom is in the hospital. She just had a surgery on her lower leg. She had a tumor there and it went very well. So all is good, but it's stressful, and
Yeah.
your loved ones go through something like that. I just noticed how I was so emotionally drained on Monday when my mom had the surgery. And what helps me is going to the park with my little, he's sitting down here. You can't see her, but I have a chihuahua.
No.
I share her with my son, but he's in New York and can't take her. So I have my chihuahua, and we go and stand by trees, and just with all the blossoms and blooms right now, I just take in that beautiful energy from nature.
Ah, I love it. I love it. I mean, we're 5 minutes in and already, right? We've got mindset, we've got sleep, we've got diet, we've got nature, right? And this is what I love about the two of you. And of course, you're both just like, you just bring such joy and, that lightness of spirit that I know is also so healthy. So thank you. Dr. Julissa, do you also have your book handy that you could just show us? Yeah.
There they are. The English version and the Spanish version, the Naturopathic Approach to Fertility, for anyone that really desires to have a healthy reproductive system, male or female, not just if you want to have a baby, it's just overall. So yes, there it is. And I'm so happy to hear that your mom is all right, Elise. Um, May I touch upon something that came to light when you were mentioning mommy?
Yes,
Jump
please
in,
do.
please.
Please, if I may. That's how I love the fact that our chats are never scripted and they're always just, they flow. And so as a Taoist, we always want to live in the flow of life. And as that's my spiritual practice. Um, Beginning work in naturopathic medicine really since I was in high school. But I started my practice in 1995. So May 1st will be 28 years, a long time. And one of the main things that we learned is that it's not a fluke why certain things happen on certain sides of the body. Okay. In my book, I actually dedicate a chapter to how emotions affect the body physically. And if we're talking about biohacking, one of my sayings to my patients is it is up to us to take our health into our own hands, which I truly feel is that definition of biohacking. So understanding that, the left side of the body being the feminine aspect, dealing with female figures in our life, mother figures, emotional love and family relationships. The right side of the body dealing with male aspect, male figures in our lives, father figures, male figures, and things concerning financial matters, business relationships, educational matters, career matters, and work issues. The fact that mommy had the surgery and already had the tumor removed, the root cause of what turned on that tendency hasn't been dealt with. So I would just, if I may, ask, which leg was it?
Oh, right leg. It's so funny because I've been saying the right leg many times, so I thought I'd already said that. Right, lower, below the knee.
If I may, along with biohacking and us taking our health into our own hands, and I'll share how biohacking relates to one of the realms of the way that I approach what I call universal medicine in my practice. It's taking our health into our own hands and trying to also take our emotional health in our own hands, right? So I would recommend, despite mommy had the surgery and so on, okay, thank God, what a blessing that they were able to remove the tumor. Try to have a talk, if I may, with mommy and ask her what male figures she has not been able to forgive.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The kidneys are the heads of the legs, and the kidneys we know are also the residents of the loins and the main organs involved in structural health, but they are truly the heads of the legs. And the kidneys, when I hear legs or things of that sort, it's unresolved fear and unresolved forgiveness. There's a reason why it happened on the right. So just have a talk with mommy. Mommy, how was your relationship with dad? Were there any male figures in her life that were father figures? Talk to her about that and maybe some unresolved fear or unresolved forgiveness issues there. And what fears around male figures and financial matters, business. She doesn't work anymore, I would imagine, but just past things. Tumors don't happen overnight. And if I may go back 7 to 10 years from the date of diagnosis to find out that answer.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And we, her tumor showed up months ago, to be honest, and we kept taking her to doctors and they kept saying that there was nothing wrong with her and it just kept growing. So I will definitely take that to her. I appreciate it. And it also brings me back to, I love that this discussion, not that we want to exclude men, but a lot of the people that I see talking about biohacking are male figures. There's a lot more men. And so it occurred to me, even just a few minutes before we started this discussion, is I was really excited to speak with another woman with two other women with a lot of information on different things that are expansive, life affirming. It's not all mechanical, so to speak. So I love that you brought that into the body, because sometimes we get that Western, and I think it is very male oriented, mechanical view of the body, that we're like a machine. So I appreciate that, that talk for mommy on both of those levels, not only for my mom, but for what this discussion is bringing to, to people, whoever's watching. I hope you're watching. We are very excited that you're here in the future or in right now, if you're here listening live.
Yes.
And I want to echo that, because I know, and I'd like to just have us go back to just sort of like, what is biohacking for a second?
Mm-hmm.
But when I first heard, when you two had suggested this topic, I'm one of those people who really did not know a lot about it. And just the term itself can have that connotation of somehow mechanical, or at least to me, right? That was the connotation. Oh, well, what am I going to do to my physical body, right, in order to enhance it or optimize it? And so already I love this conversation that we've taken it, you two have taken it to this larger, more universal place. And so maybe each of you could just briefly, like, what is biohacking?
Go ahead, Elise.
Okay. Biohacking to me is anything that you're doing to affect your biology, physiology, and in gerontology, we often call it what gets under your skin, because it's not just the, what you eat, what you do, but what you think, as Dr. Julissa said, gets under your skin. So many things get under our skin that are not just those mechanical things, so to speak. It's a holistic, the way that we interact in the world is multidimensional. And that's what I've learned in my studies of yoga and Ayurveda.
Love that.
Yes. Beautiful. So they may be talking about it a lot today, right? The biohacking sounds like the newest fad. And yet I did bring some material to share with all of you, wherein this is actually 2,500 years old. And in Chinese philosophy and Chinese medicine, because I do bring all of those aspects into my practice. I like to say that what I practice is universal medicine, because it's not just holistic and Chinese and Ayurvedic and so on. It has to be all of it, even if it's Chinese feng shui, because then I have to look at the environment of the person. If I'm dealing with severe, I don't know, liver challenges, I need to know what's happening in that southeast corner. Oh, everything is on top of each other and there's a bunch of clutter there. And then I know that that's the liver section of the home. So it's everything, right? Okay. But in Chinese philosophy, Yang Sheng, spelled Y-A-N-G, next word, S-H-E-N-G, is biohacking. And it's the Chinese art of self-healing. And so with that it being over 2,500 years old, it's relatively also something that has been brought into your practice there, Elise, also in yoga. But in the West, they're still trying to regard this as just like a potency of just like Eastern wisdom, which it really just is not. It's us considering learning how to breathe as well to help with ventilating the lungs and also supporting the immune system. It's helping to correct our digestion by modifying certain foods that are destroying it, or acidic foods, let's say, to bring in more whole foods and not diet per se, but understanding that. It's sleep and the quality of it, knowing that we shouldn't have water in the bedroom, just that one little thing. I have so many patients that sleep with water on their night table and they don't understand that that's a negative energy. Water element in the bedroom causes unrest and nightmares. And so it's all of these little intricacies that I have to bring. That's why I say it's universal medicine, where I have to look at the whole person, and yang sheng, which all involves biohacking in the English term, I would say. It's the same thing. It's doing all those things. And then movement, which you as a gerontologist, Elise, know that with our conversations in the past about centenarians and centenarians that I've interviewed also, and that I'm fascinated by, extending lifespan and longevity and so on, traveling to Costa Rica to talk to these blue zone amazing souls, right? And movement is a necessary thing. It's not uncommon to find someone over the age of 100 with a machete in the jungle, still working the fields. So movement is necessary as well. So those main aspects, and knowing that that's how you're going to keep on ticking and try and preventing disease and even overcoming diseases if those things have set in. Lastly, I'll end with, when people are taking what I would say, then if I'm going to translate biohacking to what I feel is a great English definition, let's say, taking your health into your own hands. I always tell my patients, your best map is to look around you at the elderly family members, look at the diseases and the challenges that they've had, so that you know where you need to prevent disease. People are still not doing that.
Wow.
They're waiting to, as we all know, right, ladies, so many waiting to go to my colleagues in conventional medicine to be told you have a problem here. You don't want to be told you have a problem in this organ, you have a problem in this body system, because by that time, it's already 75% deficient.
Wow.
You want to prevent. So look around you. That's the best map. Oh, what did the elderly die of? What is this aunt suffering from? What is that uncle dying of? Look and use that as your map. So I hope that.
I love this. So let me ask you both then, because I've loved both of your books, all your work that you've done. I've loved our conversations. Is there anything new in your work, or is it that we're now having this different kind of language, biohacking? Because it sounds to me that both of you have been certainly coming from this place, at least as long as I've known you. I'm sure many, 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 many years longer than that. But is there anything since you've written your books that feels like it's moved in this direction more deeply?
Elise?
Yeah, I would say I'm not sure if anything has changed recently. I think the challenges that we're facing become increasingly complicated. And I think simplifying for me has become more and more important. And I don't want to say preaching, but carrying the message of simplifying is very important to me, because I see where humans, I'll call us humans, and especially in the culture around me, which is Western culture, people living in California or in the Bay Area. We're also very tech oriented here too. We're looking for something outside of ourselves, as Dr. Julissa said. A pill, or the doctor is going to tell me what to do. We let go of our agency. Agency is very important in gerontology. There's all these things in your life you can't control. If you look at someone's life, that's what we do in gerontology. We study the life course. If you look at someone who lives to be 100, they'll have lived through wars and family trauma. And, you can't live 100 years without having all these things happen to you. And there's many what you do in your life, and that agency is the one thing that you can control. And so really mastering that is so important, keeping it simple. So the tips I have to share, they're nothing, sometimes they almost seem, they're not so glamorous, you know?
She's right.
Mindful breathing, you know, people like, okay, but we have to elevate them. We have to make them sexy, make them, I don't know. I'm always looking for ways to bring these things that I know help me sleep. Again, sleep is very yin. It's not something that you can put in an Instagram post without being thoughtful, without, how do you break down the importance of sleep and telling people from your experience that that is important without, like here I am on the top of a mountain. I mean, I guess you could post that way, but things I think about all the time. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, and I love that. And before I have you speak to this too, Dr. Julissa, I just wanted to say, Elise, that I really do appreciate what you're saying. One of my own mentors has a saying, common sense is not always common practice. And I love that because he's constantly speaking to things like movement, like sleep, like meditation, these like scheduling a sane schedule in our lives, and you're right, these things are not sexy because people are like, oh, I know that, give me something new. And yet that, frequently when we're like, give me something new, we haven't yet put into place exactly what you're speaking about. And so I think this is such a great question of, how to wake people up to actually practicing what they know.
That's brilliant. May I?
Please, come on.
Then I'll answer this question. How do you wake people up to doing it? By the time most patients come to me, it's because they've gone other routes. Okay? They've gone other routes and such. And they're most finally are truly, which you've heard before, sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or maybe looking older than they are, and they're not enjoying life the way they should, and not feeling vibrant. They're finally realizing that. And in answer to your other question, do I feel that it's a shift? I agree with Elise. It's not that there's been something new. It's just that people are opening up more, I feel, in the last 15 to 10 years or so, because of being more detached. People are texting more, not calling. You don't hear the warm voices as much. You could be living next to your neighbor for 10 years and never know their name, and the online dating. And not that it's a bad thing, but people are more detached. It just is. I've seen that within my patients. I've just seen it. They're lonelier.
Yes. Wow.
Despite having that neighbor that's been living there for 10 years and they don't know their name. So it's where they're hungrier now for it. They know that it's there, and if they're fed up enough, they'll do it. But not that it's new. It's been here. Like I just said, this is 2,500 years old, taking your health into your own hands. Yang Sheng is biohacking. And if I may translate that, the words Yang Sheng actually mean nourish life. So you have to, that's what Yang Sheng means, nourish life. You have to nourish your life with good air, with nature, with movement. And it's all of the positive things for your body.
That's beautiful. Those words, aren't they? Just hearing nourish life. I'm putting that in the chat. I love that. Yeah. Did you say you had something to read that was kind of connected to this? Maybe this is the right time.
Okay. Yes. This is from an article regarding Yang Sheng. And as I said, the direct translation of Yang Sheng is nourish life. And it is all about consciously nurturing your well-being on a day-to-day basis rather than waiting till we get ill to prioritize our health. Pure and simple. It is the ancient philosophy that is around 2,500 years old. So, as an ancient Chinese proverb explains so perfectly, and this is in quotes, waiting to treat illnesses after they manifest is like waiting to dig a well after one is thirsty. And that's how they look at life and, you know, taking care of our health.
I love that the use of the word conscious in there too, right? I'm such a huge fan of intention and so much of the work that you both do, right? It's intentionally taking care of ourselves. It's intentionally nourishing. That was so beautiful. Thank you for bringing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know, Elise, I know you also brought something. Is this a good time for what you brought us?
Yes, I can read. I just wanted to talk about one of the super agers in my book, Super Ager. You can look younger, have more energy, a better memory, and live a long and healthy life. So in the book, I have a lot of tips. They're all biohacking tips in the descriptions that we're talking about. Oh, and I wanted to say a little bit about why I thought this topic was great, because I was watching, my dad was actually watching Bloomberg News, and I walked in the room. He's often watching Bloomberg News. He loves, or not, no, actually, I'm sorry. It wasn't Bloomberg News. It's the business. I don't know. It's like a business channel, Bloomberg Business, I think, or something. I'm not sure. He's always watching about business, but they happen to have this show on how to live to be 150 years. And I was like, what's this? And I was like, and sometimes he's like changing the channel or not paying attention. I'm like, turn up the volume. No, the volume was up. And they had different people on this show. And one of them actually was somebody that lives in my area, and I know her. And they described her as a biohacker. And I said to my dad, do you know what a biohacker is? And he's like, no, he kept saying, how do you know her? And I was like, oh, she's a biohacker. I know her. And he's like, what's a biohacker? And then I thought, I'll ask my mom, who we've been talking about in this Facebook Live as well. And my mom's like, biohacker. And she tried to give me an answer. My mom reads a lot. She reads the newspaper, several newspapers every day. So she knows a lot of terms, but she wasn't quite sure what biohacking was. So I thought, oh, people need to know this. I know about it. It seems like a term that I've heard a lot, but I realized if my parents, who listen to a lot of news, didn't hear about it, then we needed to talk about it.
Yeah. Magnificent.
Especially women. So I wanted to talk about Singapore's Mother Teresa. She is no longer with us, but she is a volunteer, and she helped others in Singapore. She was known as Singapore's Mother Teresa. She was a social worker, yoga teacher, and nurse. And she devoted her life to feeding and housing needy people, especially those in dire need, regardless of race or religion. And somebody who knew her when she was alive said, she's 95 and she's looking after those younger than her. She doesn't care about herself. She only cares about others. This inspires me to follow her. But I'm sure she did care about herself and take care of herself, because she ended up living to be 113 years old.
Oh.
She was born in 1898. And she didn't take up yoga until she was about 56. So she didn't start really young. She rose daily at 4 a.m. after she started doing yoga to do yoga, calisthenics, and meditation. And she was a vegetarian. Oh, and she actually and she was known for her supremely optimistic spirit. She lived to be 113, and her organization, Heart to Heartservice.org, it still carries out her legacy of feeding and housing the poor in Singapore and beyond. So I wanted to highlight her because I have been to talks and listened to podcasts with a lot of, biohackers, and they're often talking about machines. There is a lot of machines and supplements you can take, but I think we lose track of what we can do from our hearts. And Mother Teresa, Chi, I may be saying that incorrectly. Uh, she, she is a great example of this.
I love that. I love that. May I, Sherry?
Jump in. I'm busy
Oh,
writing down. We lose track of what we could do with our hearts. So I'm going
right.
to write that down while you go.
Okay, Elise, I love, love, love that story. And I love that you touched upon all the gadgets today. Okay, let's go there.
Ah, let's go there.
Because I would rather people truly do things as natural as possible. So on first, yes, bring in, and I have to bring in natural therapies because many people don't eat right. Many people tell me that they feel nauseous when they drink water, or they have never eaten anything green because they just can't stomach it or whatever it may be. And so sometimes I'm forced to have to, bring in obviously natural therapies that I know are going to help them with either shrinking the uterine fibroids or shrinking that, let me just say it, cyst on the testicle, whatever it may be, the program has to be there. That's why I've developed male and female health programs that everyone can find on my website and is now available to the public, not just my private patients. Having said that, the gadgets. No, I do not recommend my patients sleep with Apple Watches and this and that. And so
Oh,
absolutely, I don't, okay, it tells you your steps and all of it, but not constantly bringing those types of frequencies to the body. When you're going to see centenarians in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, who are eating organic and using a machete in the fields at 104, they're not wearing those types of things. Okay. So, Elise, you hit it on the head. I know all of these things are great. Apps are wonderful and so on, but to constantly have that on the body, constantly expose yourself to that. I mean, I don't recommend it. And even when I'm helping a mom get pregnant, you have to keep that phone inside your bag away from your body during the entire pregnancy. Put the ringer loud enough that you can hear it and you'll go there to get it, not in your pockets, not on your body. Just no, I'm not all for it. Sorry. And I agree with you totally. Thank you.
ah, good, good. Elise, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I what do I want to add to that? Yeah, lean into that, everyone who's listening. What can you do right now that's very simple, such as feng shui? You're describing, just tidy up, make things in your life more peaceful and calm. There's so many things that have been studied. Gratitude, that is a tremendous biohacking tip. And we don't think of it as affecting our biology, but it does. It really does. And especially if you are quite ill, or as Dr. Julissa said, having trouble eating greens or water, start simple. Gratitude, um, loving kindness towards yourself. Go in nature, or close your eyes and visualize nature. Use the things that you have around you, getting enough sleep, taking care of everything that you can do for sleep. I help my clients with daily rituals, and I also have that in my latest book, rituals that help you wake up in the morning, get morning light on your eyes. That's a huge one. I always tell people, because we don't go outside anymore, just getting light on your eyes is so essential, right? Because that's affecting our circadian rhythms. And if we're not getting outside, our body is so disoriented. So I could continue, but I'm going to say the natural things that are right in front of you. Don't get fooled by all the marketing. Start very simple with a daily ritual and routine. And I do have a little worksheet. If anyone wants to email me, I have a cheat sheet. You can just write it up and put it on your refrigerator, put it in your bathroom. Just a couple things. Just when you wake up, do a couple things. When you have your midday break, do some things, and then in the nighttime, what you can do to wind down. I think those are better than an app. You can do it all analog.
Yay!
Yes.
I love that. Oh, look, Brenda's here. Elise, what is that sheet called? Hi, Brenda. What is that
Hi.
called? And I'll put it in the comments so people can ask for it. Does it have a name?
I call it the daily ritual cheat sheet.
Ah,
Because I know this happens to me. So if it happens to me, it happens to everyone. Where at the end of the day, especially, I can't remember what I like to do. It sounds crazy, right? But it happens to us all. I tell my clients to do a spa-like bedtime routine, but we have decision fatigue at the end of the day. So I can't decide what to do, or my mind just goes blank. But if I have a little sheet that tells me, okay, this week I'm going to soak my feet in water and essential oils, it's a no-brainer. It's like, that's on the menu. That's what I order. Just like when you go to a spa, you just tell them, I want this treatment, this massage, and this foot bath. So it's done for me. In the morning, same thing. Instead of turning on your phone and scrolling through Instagram, oh no, first I'm going to drink some warm water with lemon. I'm going to do some meditation or mindful breathing. When you have a little list and you see it, your body, I think it's very life nourishes my life. And I found other people, it helps them to nourish their life. Just something simple like that.
oh, I love this. Let me fill in. First of all, let me introduce Brenda. Hello, welcome to Mango Publisher, Brenda.
Hello.
So glad that you are here. And Brenda, I know you'd love what we were just talking about. So Dr. Julissa was starting us off saying biohacking. A lot of people think it means like these gadgets and these apps, and you've got your phone on you all the time, and you've got these devices. And she and Elise were just talking about the beauty and the healthfulness of simplicity. And so, it's really beautiful. The thing I wanted to respond to all of that is what I also love about it is that it's an equalizer, right? Because it's like anyone can focus on getting sleep, drinking more water, meditation, yoga. These aren't things that necessarily you have to be able to afford all sorts of crazy, latest this or that. And I personally love that so much. So welcome, Brenda. I'm curious.
I love simplicity too. Things don't need to be complicated. They really don't. So simplicity is the path to joy, I believe.
Brenda, you just jumped in, and I don't know where you are on this whole journey of what you know about biohacking or not, but did you come with any sort of questions to toss in?
I really wanted to just soak in the wisdom because, for whatever reason, no, usually I'm sort of unflappable, like whatever at me, like from my inbox or email or, whatever, I can sort of just sail on. But like this week has been very discombobulating. And I know that because Elise is also, in my life as a friend and important person, I know that she's is having a week that's way more intense than mine. And so I think that I was really just here selfishly to just sponge up whatever tips I could for how to not get worn down by it all, because just feel worn down this week, and I don't like that because it usually doesn't happen, but it did. So I guess it's so perfect that this is the topic for Heart Wisdom this week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right. And how many people who are watching right now or who will be watching the replay are worn down, right? And so I think that's a great place to go. I mean, anything either of you want to jump in with around that?
May I?
Yes, please.
So for both of you, Brenda and Elise, take into account what, for example, spiritual teachings have us understand in Taoist philosophy. Taoism focuses on living in the flow of nature. We are in spring or entering spring. And so the color Kelly green, for example, just green, what that brings to us is change. So if you understand and already have in your mind, this is a time of changes where nothing that was as it was January, February will be the same almost in any way around this time. In Taoist philosophies, we have to understand that we have to live in the flow of life and the flow of nature. So understanding that you don't have to be so hard on yourself because, why isn't it still this way and so on? Let go and allow it to pass, because if you push against it, you're going to feel more stressed. When we were discussing, for example, I love that you mentioned the cheat sheet there, Elise. Beautiful. What I do, for example, with my patients is, because all of you beautiful souls are so unique, that's why every 90 days or so, I take a handful of patients at a time to work with directly, in the sense that because the cells of the body tend to regenerate every 90 days, in those 90 days, whatever comes to me that I have to recommend for them is unique to them. And then every weekly Zoom that I do with them, those 9, and the first time it's 2 hours with me on their consult. And at the end of the 90 days, we do another so that they can compare in the examination where their healing has been. And then we do left with left, right with right, and they can see that. But in between, it's every week on a Zoom with me, a follow-up Zoom, about 20 minutes or so that they're not doing this alone. And if certain things come up that are different with every week, we make another shift and make another recommendation and another shift and so on, so that they reach that place where they understand their unique flow, right? Does that make sense? And so please don't press yourselves or stress yourselves that everything is not just the same. This has to be a time for changes. So just allow it. As Elise said, and we know we have to just breathe. Allow the changes to come. Don't worry, things will settle down about mid-May to the end of May or so, but just allow it so you're not so stressed. I understand life is not easy, but we have to know that we have to live in the flow of that so that we can adapt.
This seems like, to me, a wonderful time. If either of you have a particular breathing practice that we could do right now, and anybody watching now or later, I mean, I love it when we actually get to do things that are practices. Anybody have one for us?
Do you want to go ahead, Elise?
Yeah, I would love to hear Dr. Julissa's as well. I wanted to say also, yeah, I believe living in the flow is so important. I'm not a Taoist, but I have a teacher that talks about that. And I can see it in other people. It's more challenging for ourselves, for me, to see where I kind of block that flow. But I believe that's what stress is, when we are, like Brenda said, discombobulated. That is something where I have a pattern in me that is not in alignment with the universe, so to speak. That's how I interpret it. I'm not a Taoist, but I do see that. But sometimes it's almost like my son is a surfer. Like, we get tossed around in the waves, and I'm like, where is the flow? Where is the flow? And I just put my hand on my heart. That's another technique. I teach that to my students a lot. Just put your hand on your heart and your belly, and even just allowing yourself to be human, not knowing all the answers. Because especially when we're in helping professions, I give a lot. And that's why I also gave that not Mother Teresa, but the Mother Teresa of Singapore. I talked about her because she gave so much, but she filled up her well. She nourished her life as well. So let's do a little breathing. You can just breathe in through your nose. This is what I've been doing lately. So I'm just going to talk you through it. I will do this on my own later, but you're going to breathe in for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1, and then holding for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathing in 4, 3, 2, 1. Holding 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. Breathing in. 3, 2, 1. Holding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathing out. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just breathe normally. How did that feel?
Wonderful. That slows down the heart. Wonderful for people with high blood pressure. Thank you, Elise. Beautiful.
Especially if you're feeling overly stimulated. I've been doing that so much in this springtime, as you've described.
Yes.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite breathing exercise too, Dr. Julissa?
It was the same premise, but we do 4 counts, 4 counts, 4 counts in, holding for 4, letting out for 4. But it's the same premise. I love the way Elise did it.
I love that.
Mhm.
I read somewhere, I don't know if that's box breathing, the 4, hold for 4, breathe out 4.
Mhm. Exactly.
But I read somewhere that that's what the Navy SEALs do. And so that, when I heard that, I was like, okay, if it's good for them, it's going to be good for me because they're under a lot of stress. So
Mhm.
I love that. Thank you, Brenda, for bringing that question in and the reminder. And that's why I love to practice these things live. The reminder that, again, these aren't just like, oh, yeah, I know I should, focus on my breath, but to actually, I don't know how long that was that Elise did that, but that was probably 2 minutes. And it felt so good. So the reminder that we can take tiny moments in our lives to take care of ourselves in these ways.
Agreed.
Definitely.
So a question that I have for you is that, we're talking about some of these people. I love that the Mother Teresa of Singapore, I think you said she was 113 when she died, and obviously still giving and serving and vibrant. Is our lifespan determined by our genes, or are some of these things that you're telling us, could that possibly change how long and how vibrantly we live?
I'll say something. I know Dr. Julissa said,
Good.
well, epigenetics, and that I have it in my book. I'll read it to you in a moment, but you can definitely change your genes. We didn't know that in your brain cells up until like the early 2000s, people thought you were born with the same amount of brain cells. Now we know neurogenesis can keep our brain growing and moving, and our genes are. My professor in gerontology, my gerontology master's program, in the science class, he said that our genes were like a cookbook. And so, in a cookbook, you have favorite recipes, you go to one page. So our bodies are following certain recipes, and some of them we're ignoring, and some of those good ones we might want to look into and start using those recipes. So if you think of it that way, rather than we're determined by our genes, and that happens a lot with health. And I know what Dr. Julissa said about her patients that say, oh, this is because my dad had it or my grandma had it. Actually, she turned it around. She said, don't wait until you're going to get that diagnosis that's similar to an older relative. Take care of that now, because I think it's more our patterns, our mental, emotional patterns, but we get conned into or programmed into believing that is something genetic when everything is epigenetic.
Wow.
Agreed. Yes. I have a saying that I tell my patients, but all my mom and all of her sisters developed breast cancer, and that scares me, and that's why I'm here. I've seen what they've suffered. I'm literally kind of reiterating the words of a patient, just one out of all these 28 years, so many, right? But we are never doomed
Wow.
So for the diseases of our family members, the body knows how to heal itself. And if we feed it what it is missing, we can prevent disease. And if it is ill, we can feed it what it needs to do so to overcome that. So you're absolutely right, Elise. No, we are not doomed. However, we can feed also the good parts. If anyone was able to see recently on my social media, I posted my picture with my great grand aunt, who is 98. We just celebrated her 98th birthday. Her sister died at 103. Her brother died at 90. My grandfather died at 92 or 93. And her other brother died at 100 and something as well. So that is there. I'm wanting to inherit that. I want to go to 120. I have like that number. That's like that number because it's a multiple of 3. When you add it up, it's 3. I just believe in all of that. And just, there's a reason, because numbers are, and math is universal and the universal language. And so I don't know. I have always held on to that number, right? But I hope to inherit that. So we can inherit the good and dispel the negative and do what we need to prevent. Absolutely. Yes, genetics is a bummer. So, but it's a map, as I said before, to help us know where we need to focus, what we need to do to prevent exactly that. And we need to be open also to when we're practicing biohacking and deciding what foods to eat, not a diet, but what foods to avoid, whether it's processed foods and so on, and wanting to bring in certain exercise. Well, in Chinese medicine, people don't know that blood type food eating is actually part of that as well. And there's a reason why certain families suffer from certain diseases.
Oh.
And that has to do with the blood type and metabolism as well. So, a blood type O would do better with, very intense aerobic exercise, while a type A, I know, needs yoga and Tai Chi. And will do better. Their cells will respond better to that because they tend to be very sensitive to stresses when the body is too overly stressed and produces cortisol. So it's all of that is why it needs to be unique to each person, as I'm sure you see, Elise, unique to each one of your clients, as it is unique to each one of my patients. I don't treat 2 colds the same.
Wow.
I don't treat 2 prostate cancer is the same. I can't, because I have to find the root cause, which most times stems emotionally, and everybody's life is different. And then the physical. But the perfect storm has to be happening for disease to set in. Right? So.
You know what I love so much about what you just said is that it feels like our culture is a culture of, here, get this. That's going on, here, take that. It's just this, and what you just said to me feels so true about that, we are individuals, our blood types, our genes, everything, our lifestyle. And it feels like such disservice isn't even a strong enough word, right? It's just so not right that's how our culture treats anything that's going on with us, physically or emotionally, even.
Yeah, at least Western.
At least, yeah. Thinking of, here, I'm in the United States. I'm thinking United States.
Yes. Yeah. Totally right. It really, when you're working with a human, you have to work uniquely with that specific soul, that meat suit they're wearing, that in this life. It's so unique to each and every one. You can't treat them all the same. So.
Now, also, I know this might sound counterintuitive to that, but Dr. Julissa, you had actually put a question out there when we were talking about this that I really wanted an answer to. So, and it might or might not be connected. We were just talking about, but you said, we could talk about examples in the past years that show biohacking being introduced to the world on a large scale as a practice to prevent disease and overcome health challenges.
Uh-huh.
And so it sounds as if there might be some things that have been introduced that are, a more healthy way of of introducing some practices to people. Can you speak to that?
I feel like the work that we've done with our books are magnificent tools that do that. Your book, Say It Now, is about staying in that positive note and sharing your emotions and not bottling them in. Am I correct? Right? Bringing that out. Can I tell you that cancers and accumulations of abnormal cells are a build up of many of those things? I talked about that in the chapter of my book. Just on a side note, tumors and cancers, they again, they don't develop overnight. It takes time for that's a buildup of certain things, right? So I believe our books do that, and yours also, Elise, where it gives people tips for longevity. And in my book, I talk about how the kidneys are the main organs that, for example, Chinese emperors in the past, I published articles on it, how they used to constantly intake kidney tonics just so that they could extend their lifespan, so they could rule way past the age of 100. And so all of that, I believe our books are some of those tools where people are like, I had no idea about this. What? And so our books do that. I believe that that's a main tool. And you have an age now where after 1997, for those that understand a little bit about spirituality and just the nature of, you know, how we have Gen Z and Gen X, and now we're on Gen, I don't know which letter. But children are being born more aware. For those that understand indigo children, let's say, there's been studies that they've seen this more of an awakening in the children have been born since 1997. Okay, my son was born in 2000. Your son was born after that too, right, Elise? Okay.
99.
There you go, 99. My son was born in 2000. You're in 99. So when you see, my God, how do they know that? When they're growing up, you see that. You see, how do they, what? Just did they absorb all of the stuff I was seeing on the internet while he was in the womb? What's happening? What's you know? So you're seeing all of that, and that's what's making them know that I don't want to take that drug because I'm seeing now what it did to my grandmother, and I don't want to suffer the chemotherapy the way that she did, where she just deteriorate. And they're seeing that, and they're like, I don't want to do it. I need to find another way. So I feel like that's where it's bringing more of that. You know, the fact that in this era, you have Dan Buettner, right, who wrote The Blue Zones, and I'm fascinated with his work, and he and I are friends also on socials, and I communicate with him as well. And so when you hear all of that, where that's brought to light, what 5-6 regions in the world where for eons they live past the age of 100, what are they doing? Eating more organic, eating less, practically no meat. They're practically vegetarian. And only maybe on a festival a couple of times a year, they bring in maybe some seafoods. They're moving their bodies all the time. There's community. These are the commonalities that they found in these people, right? There's community. It's not uncommon to find a great grandmother where all of the generations are still living in the same house, and they treat them as wisdomful souls, not sticking them in homes. Still living with them. The children are learning from these elders and so on. So they're being aware and noticing, I don't want to do that drug. My grandma is 100 and she's not wearing glasses and she still cooks. I want to live that way. And they treat them on pedestals. And so that's what I feel. And our books are bringing this to the light so that they can learn these practices.
I love that. Elise, we've got about a minute. Is there anything that you want to add to that? I'd love to hear if you do.
I loved everything you just said, Dr. Julissa. I would add, just notice in your life if you are thinking that biohacking or healthier habits should cost you a lot of money, because as you said, the blue zones, they are not places, they're places except for the one Loma Linda is in Southern California, and that's because they're Seventh-day Adventist.
Right, exactly.
They've they're all bubbles. We sometimes talk about bubbles, like the Bay Area is a bubble.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
They're all bubbles. All of them are isolated geographically, except for the one in Southern California. And the reason I say that is they're not wealthy places, but they are communities where people live, as you described, intergenerationally in community. It's natural. They're not buying an Apple Watch or going to hook themselves up to electrodes or red lights. Some of those things can be good, but there's things at your fingertips that you can do right now that are free. And so I love that you are saying that we're doing this biohacking. It's not just some app person in Silicon Valley that are trying to find a new drug that costs thousands of dollars, because that's not where it's at. We can all change up our biology by doing very simple things, even just living in the flow of life, as you said. So I love this discussion today.
Oh, me too. You know, I was just thinking, you two, every time I'm with you, I feel more alive. And I think that's just an example, right? Of like an uplift of aliveness, of vitality, community, feeling possible. You both have brought that to me every time we've all been together. And I'm so excited that the places that you've come from today have been places that are accessible to anybody. And I am so grateful for that. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
What a wonderful conversation. I hope that we can get this replay out there so lots of people can even just adopt one or two practices, right? Like that's how it is, just one or two new practices. And of course, we'll put your books in the comments when after this is over, because you're right. Those are great resources. Thank you both. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Goodbye, ladies. It was
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.